We're on. So, what draws you to the abstract art as opposed to the classical art?
Well, classical art is representational. It is taking something and saying, okay, here is a dog, here is a person, here is a gesture. What draws me to the abstraction or abstract art, or to representational art, or even to impressionist art, or using those elements, is that I want to represent the self in a completely uncontaminated way. Okay. And how do you do that? Because when you have an uncontaminated self, transparency becomes important, lightness becomes important, the ability to look through somebody becomes important, because most traditional art, whether it's painting, whether it's sculpture, is an object. It is there. It takes up space, it displaces air, it displaces light, but it affects it. My idea is that what I want to do is use lightweight materials that move with the environment, that reflect light or deflect light or refract light in ways that, depending on your experience point, it disappears. Depending on your emotional state, it can disappear.
You know, in classical sculpture, it's all about reflected light. It's all about the round or the relief. It's all about the reflected light. It's all about light hitting dark, even in classical sculpture. You know,
right? But what if we could learn? I mean, how is classical sculpture different than the guys on Fifth Avenue who dress up like Statue of Liberty and stay still for a period of time? It's not, right? I mean, just because it's a sculpture that's going to last 1,000 years and be static and may reflect light is no different than what Marina Abramovich was doing at the Modern a while ago, which was to sit completely still for 20 hours a day.
Good point.
You know, but that is not what nature is about, right?
You're talking about organic movement per se, in a natural organic form,
and because nature is not static. So why should art be static? Humans are not static. Why should we as humans be creating art that outlasts us? And if it does outlast us, then it should be moving with nature, because nature is not static.
Well, classical art recreates the image
at a particular point in time. Okay, and then it is fixed in time and fixed in concrete and fixed in everything forever.
In bronze,
unless you move the venue, right? I mean, the only thing that not the only thing, one of the things that classical art does is that if the artist has constructed it in Versailles or in the Sistine Chapel, then taking it from the Sistine Chapel to Royal Albert's Palace in Islip, New Jersey, completely changes and disrupts the art. But abstract art conforms to and is a chameleon in my view. And that's what I want my art to be. I want my art to be chameleon-like. I want it to be like Frank Lloyd Wright, where it does not impose on the environment any more than it has to, and it changes and becomes adaptable within the environment in which it is placed, rather than the other way around.
So you are basing your art on the form rather than the function.
No, both the form
and function.
The form has to be organic enough that whether I am looking at it in India, China, through a tsunami, in the heat, in the cold, the form will adapt to that environment. It is organic enough. That's the meaning of organic to me.
Well, with Calder, it was form and movement. Okay.
Who?
Calder, Sandy Calder.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you are looking to create.
But Calder did not do any.
He created mobiles, massive
internal mobiles.
Right.
Within internal human constructed spaces.
Massive.
I've seen them.
Right.
He did a lot of stabiles that were external, like the one in Chicago, or like the one at the Storm King Mountain, which is 90 feet tall, but is the stable, fixed artifact, right? But he created mobiles in internal spaces such as the National Museum, National Gallery in New York, and DC, and others.
Well, your sharks are mobile.
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely, it is.
They're that type of form.
It is a mobile, but it completely moves, in my view, with the environment. It is independent of whether it is. I mean, the idea of a shark or a massive structure like that suspended in the air is that it is a familiar object, which people generally associate with something terrifying, with something massive, something very, very agile, and to reduce it to, in essence, a very, very slender, lightweight, buffeted by the wind kind of thing, challenges the human conception, in my view, or the human preconception, if one can call it, that an animal like that, can only be terrifying. But here you can observe it from all different directions, and depending on the light of day, depending on the time of day, depending on the way the winds are blowing, depending on what place it is placed in, what background it's placed in, it creates a different feeling. It's a form of a shark without really being a shark, right? If I constructed it out of a highly polished bronze and made an exact replica of it, well, then it'll be a shark, except in bronze.
So the concept is to create something that is the abstract of the original.
There's the abstract of the original that invites the audience
To participate with
to simply provide. I mean, I'd like to get to a point where I'm simply providing the audience with a stimulus to carve out space, based on their own experience. So it's not like Rauschenberg or some of these other guys, or what is it, Barnett Newman, which is a canvas that's painted all red. Now, that's what I would like to do with sculpture, in the sense that when you are there, you have a suggestion of a three-dimensional space, but it is not a literal carving out of a three-dimensional or multi-dimensional environment. It is a suggestion to you as the audience, as the viewer. Look, if I move from here to there and I look at it from this angle, it looks completely different. And maybe the way it looks to you is not the way it looks to somebody else. Because I want your head to be involved in examining this thing and saying, what is this thing, right? Not me telling you, this is what it is. For example, look, the traditional idea of perspective in painting, right, is where it's akin to a projector, right? Projecting from the back of the canvas onto the canvas, and the audience sitting on the other side, right? It's a backward projection, right? A lot of the painting when I was painting is, and I think what I think of, like, for example, some of the better Impressionist painters, and maybe that's my interpretation, is where the point of perspective is not within the painting, but is outside the painting. So the point of perspective is in the audience. If I stand at a certain point outside the painting, I become the point of perspective, and everything projects from me. It's like looking at a projected image. Why is a projected image different than a flat image, right? Because the perspective of the light rays that are traveling to that projection are coming from outside the image itself, not from within the image itself. And that's what I want to be able to do with my sculpture.
You want to make a sculpted material hologram.
Absolutely. Which changes with ways.
Gotcha. All right, interview over.